The Daily Code Snippet. In addition to finishing up on the topic of borders, we reviewed how an outline is different. Outlines never take up space. Outlines are not part of the dimensions. An outline's width is not added to the width and height. Outlines are drawn outside of an element's content. Outlines don't have to be rectangular, but they usually are. An outline is a line that is drawn around an element, situated outside the border, whose purpose is to make the element stand out. The outline property has a shorthand. Outline, outline width, outline style, which is required, and outline color. Outline, 2 pixels dotted red. Since outline color is optional, if not specified, the color will be the color of the text. This states that the outline should be 2 pixels, dotted, and red. We saw this in action. It was demonstrated on a navigation element on hover to make it stand out more. The outline sits just outside the border of an element. We also learned we should never assign a value of 0 or none to an outline. This is because it removes the focus style that is set to a browser by default. This is an issue for accessibility. Outlines indicate what element has their focus when navigating the web with a keyboard. So by removing an outline, a user will have no visible indicator what element is being focused on. So if you dislike the default outline style for a browser, the solution is not to remove it. Instead, restyle it so it remains available to someone navigating using a keyboard. Going back to borders, it is also possible to round the corners of a border placed around an element. In order to do this, we would adjust the border radius. The value is the size of the radius in pixels. For border radius to work in a cross-compatible fashion, we have to add the prefixes -moz- for Mozilla Firefox and -webkit- for Apple Safari. This is how the code would display. In addition, it is also possible to target a particular corner instead of all corners. Border top left radius, 20 pixels. Border top right radius, 40 pixels. Border bottom right radius, 30 pixels. Border bottom left radius, 60 pixels. This is how the code would display. The shorthand for border radius is as follows: top left, top right, and bottom left. Here is an example. Border radius, 20 pixels, 40 pixels, 30 pixels, 60 pixels. This is how the code would display. Border radius can also create elliptical shapes by using different values for the horizontal and vertical parts of the rounded corners. The 4 horizontal values are placed before the 4 vertical values. Here is the HTML. Here is the base CSS. We will start with a 200 pixel square with some margin and padding added to create space for the text within and between shapes. We have a light blue background and are floating the shapes so they display next to one another. Remember horizontal values before the vertical values, which are different. -moz- for Mozilla Firefox and -webkit- for Apple Safari are sometimes needed for cross-browser compatibility. The first shape on the top row reflects the code in our example. In the next example, the radius is taller than it is wide. Although the horizontal and vertical values differ, they are the same for all 4 corners. The resultant shape is more uniform than the previous shape. A circle is made by taking a square box and making the border radius the same height as the square. Since our square is 200 pixels by 200 pixels, we are making the border radius 200 pixels. The result is the circle, the last shape on the upper row. And finally, you can also target one corner. Here is the CSS. We use the visibility hidden to hide the 4th shape and leave a space so that the examples of one corner being targeted are all together on the bottom row. Making circles and elliptical shapes was new with CSS3 almost a decade ago. Once it was possible, it began to be used as a feature. A common way you see circles used in websites today is in the staff section. Rather than presenting the images of people as square or rectangular portraits, It became trendy to show their headshots in a circle. We go over how to do this using the border radius property. We created a sample web page and blocked out a section for staff. In this section, the HTML shows several image elements. We are drawing in the same silhouette image into each of our circles for demonstration purposes. For the CSS, we can target the image elements in section 5 using its ID attribute. Hashtag section 5 image. Each shape has the same width and height to make a square. The border radius is set to that same height to make a circle. We use a float to make the images sit side by side into 2 rows at this browser width. If you were to scale the browser, the images would move accordingly. The margin and padding are added to give space. The code will display like this, so now you too can incorporate this into your websites. Presented by Designers Learn Code.